Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's show. Coming up, Disney reveals the new room design of Disney's contemporary resort. The Polynesian has an official reopening date, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. All this and more on this week's episode of the Diz Unplugged. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's show, episode 1134 for the week of June 29th, 2021. I don't even remember if we ever give the episode number or date anymore, but hey, I just did, so we're catching you up if we don't do that anymore. I'm Craig Williams, and I will be guiding this conversation today. Yes, I'm not Pete. I apologize. We are having a week right now with our entire team. Pete came down with an illness this morning. Kathy's out with an illness. Rhino is traveling. John and Kevin have important things happening tomorrow that's leaving them unavailable today. Fiasco's busy. Everyone, Corey Martin and Julie are on vacation. So we are about as bare as you can get right now with our crew today. So who's joining me? Well, we have Denny Sunderly.
Hi there.
And we have Jackie Gailey.
Hey, everyone.
Hi. So thank you both for joining me here. And hopefully this will be a smooth show. Right now, if you are currently at Walt Disney World or right in my neighborhood near my house, you know that there are massive torrential thunderstorms that are rolling through the area that could cause some issues, but we're going to try to just push through this anyways. Before we get started, I do need to remind you that this show is brought to you by Dreams Unlimited Travel. If you like our content and you want to support us, remember the best way to do so is by booking your next vacation to Walt Disney World or Disney Cruise Line or Universal Orlando through Dreams Unlimited Travel. It costs you no extra money, and you get that world-class level of Dreams Unlimited Travel agent support right along with it. So head over to dreamsunlimitedtravel.com today and get a free, no obligation quote. And also, for all those people watching this right now on YouTube, please take a second to hit the thumbs up. And also, if you're not subscribed to the Diz Unplugged yet, make sure you're subscribed. That would also be very lovely. And make sure you hit the bell so you get notified when we're going live or we have new videos on the Diz Unplugged. Also, if you're in the live chat, welcome. Glad to see you here right now. And if you're watching later, go ahead and feel free to leave any comments, questions, video suggestions in the comments section below. And finally, wrapping up for you audio people out there, because I love you. I never forget about you. Make sure that you are subscribed to the Diz Unplugged wherever you listen to podcasts, and leave us fun 5-star ratings on Apple Podcasts if you're enjoying the show. And oh boy, we have a great show for you this week. We have a lot of news to go over, some old news from last week that we didn't go over. But before we get started, Jenny, jeez Louise, Denny, Jackie.
I love that.
That's
our name.
Denny.
Yeah, it's your new couple's name together. Denny, Jackie.
You can have Rhino. I mean, we
That's
don't
right.
have
That is true. How are you both doing today?
Fantastic.
Doing well. Thank you.
Good.
How are
Good.
you doing, Craig?
I'm losing my mind slowly, and we're gonna have fun. We're gonna have fun with this. So let's jump in the news. Hopefully, I don't make any more big mistakes. But the first news is that Disney has finally revealed the brand new look for the rooms at Disney's Contemporary Resort, and it's actually been very, very interesting to see the outpouring of both support and complete dislike for these rooms, both in the same. And Walt Disney Imagineering is enhancing the retro modern aesthetic, evoking Tomorrowland with a dash of The Incredibles in there as well. So they have a sleek monorail motif with some of the favorite characters from the Pixar animated film The Incredibles. if you couldn't figure that out from it. There will be new custom artwork inside the guest rooms, and it's just going to be modern, futuristic, stylish, dashing, complementing the resort's architecture while putting the superheroes' powers on display. And yeah, it's very, very exciting for the Contemporary. Obviously, this has been a rumor for a long time, and it is a rumor that is correct. But what do y'all think about the rooms?
Well, it took them a long time to get it just right. And I mean, I think that the research that went into it, I think that they really spent a lot of time making it just right with the different shapes and the different, the different, they're not necessarily sleek, sharp lines, but they've got some monorail action going. And I mean, I think it's really cool. I feel like this is, people are going to say that this is always how I look at things, but the Contemporary is modern. It was modern back in the day when it was built, right? So it's got that mid-century vibe going on. And for anybody who's seen The Incredibles, that film, both the first one and the second one, is all about mid-century modern. And so I feel like this is just perfection with just a little splash of IP. Why not? It's a great story, and I think it's a fantastic look. So
I am on the side of knowing that it was like we heard rumblings that it was coming and kind of knowing that it was, but not wanting it to. I enjoyed the Contemporary for what it was already. Green is my favorite color, and so those accents of green throughout the rooms with the earth tones, I enjoyed it. Those rooms are ginormous to begin with. So if you get to stay at the Contemporary, whether it's an Incredibles theme or the original theme, you've got enough space in that room to do whatever you need to do with however many people you have in your room hanging out. And so it's, to me, I understand that we're getting it. I understand that we're having the IP. I don't know that it was needed or necessary. I know that people had been saying for quite some time that it needed a refresh, and I get that. But I am someone who liked the old way. That being said, I know we need to embrace change. We're seeing Moana show up at the Polynesian. And now the Incredibles here at the Contemporary. It's only a matter of time before, we all know the Grand Floridian rooms need a little love. So I'm sure some IP will be showing up over there a little bit more than it already is. But I like the extent that they went on the little touches throughout the room, like the costumes, the superhero costumes hanging in the armoire. How cute is that? And the little masks all lined up on the shelf. I love the shot that they gave us of inside the bedside table, the drawer. It's got a personal favorite of mine. It's got a Jack Jack's Cookie Num Nums just right in there, crumbled, and the new math book. So I think okay, if we're going to do it, let's really do it. I'm okay with that. I just don't know in my heart of hearts that it was warranted.
That's a bold take with it. I think the last time I stayed at the Contemporary, I'm not saying I think the last time, I do know the last time I stayed at the Contemporary, it was just last year. I was in one of the garden wing rooms. And while it was nice, and yes, the selling point of the Contemporary for the rooms is that those rooms are massive. They are huge and they are comfortable. And I did like the modern, sleek look of them before. But in terms of adding intellectual property, Incredibles wasn't my number one choice for this by any stretch of the imagination. Like with the Incredibles, I feel like it sits on that line between, like, it is mid-century modern, but it hits that era of like late 50s and early 60s, whereas with the Contemporary, like many people have said with this, why not get something that's hitting more at like right around the early 70s when Walt Disney World first opened up its doors and the Contemporary first opened up its doors. And I think we mentioned on an Off the Rails or a different show at one point in time, like how great would it be? We've always talked about it would be great if Walt Disney World had the Disneyland Hotel equivalent of the Disneyland Hotel out in California. How great would it have been if the Contemporary could have been the Walt Disney World Hotel that features all those touches and nods to it? But at the same time, that's still that while that is intellectual property, as Walt Disney World is intellectual property, it's not a movie, and it's not a popular movie. Where I think the last Incredibles, it had to have made close to $1 billion if it didn't make over $1 billion. I should have looked up the box office numbers, but I mean a massive hit, and Disney has seen how well retheming portions over at Disneyland have done with the Incredibles, like with the Incredicoaster taking over California Screaming. That's just been a massive hit. So it totally makes sense why they put it in there. And along the lines, like some of the fixes with the rooms actually looks like an improvement. Like the new bathrooms have actual deep sinks now instead of the thin, shallow sinks of before. And the bathrooms look just sleek and elegant. But yeah,
And the monorail mirror. How cool is that?
yeah, the monorail mirror, and then in the room having, the window that will look out towards your view, whatever. I don't know. It has the monorail on that as well too with the Incredibles, and it just has those looks together. So while the Incredibles aren't my favorite, I do think that these rooms look amazing. They're not what I want them to be. I would like them to be more evocative of Walt Disney World and the past history of Walt Disney World, but that wasn't in the cards. This is what we're getting, and for what it is, I think they actually look pretty good.
Yeah, that's kind of how I am. I mean, The Incredibles isn't my most favorite movie ever, but I'm not sure what other IP, if they were looking to put IP in there. I can't really think of another movie that would fit, but like, I think it would be, a theme like the sort of like the Disneyland Hotel, where they put, where the lobby is just full of pictures from when it was being built. And I mean, if they could have gone with something like that, maybe, but I don't know though. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's hard.
The interesting part is we threw the question out to our Patreon supporters and said, what do you think of the new incredible rooms that are coming to the Contemporary? And we had 214 responses and 112. So half of them said love it. Then 28 responses said hate it. 59 were indifferent, and then 15 others just said other and left their comments in the comment section that we have on Patreon, which if you want to help support us in our content, patreon.com/DizUnplugged. You get like the exclusive after show that we have each week now on Diz Unplugged for our Patreon supporters there. But yeah, even though a lot of people said they love it, the comments that actually came in to talk about it more all kind of showed a little bit more indifference or dislike for it, including like our friend Willis said, I'm between indifferent and hate it, like the use of Incredibles, but it's the execution that's wrong, like the arch adding to the sliding door and all the white, because you feel like it'll get grudgy and dirty over time. And so that's a lot of what the takes are with it. Or there's, like Kelly said, it's one step too far with the IP. And I know I've seen that a lot because people are comparing the look of the Incredibles rooms at the Contemporary versus the rooms that were redone at All Stars and Pop Century that have that Mickey Mouse feel to it, and say, how is there a difference between the two of these? But my argument with that still is that the Contemporary rooms are massive, and that doesn't change because they changed the look of the rooms. The rooms are still going to be huge, and you have little small touches that I'm sure, like the beds will feel slightly comfier and slightly larger with it, but then you also have that close proximity to Magic Kingdom, and all of that together wraps up why it still will cost a lot more than staying at something like Pop Century or All Stars. Plus you have California Grill, up above you. Pretty soon in the future, we will have whatever is replacing the wave, because of course we know that is closing. Don't know what's replacing it, or if it's just being upgraded, whatever. We don't know, but you have that there too, plus Chef Mickey's. It just has all those extras that are why it costs the money that it does overall. And yeah, I'm excited to get in there and see it when it's all finished up and redone. So I love the contemporary, especially if you have that Magic Kingdom view. You can't really beat it.
Yes. Yes. For me, staying at the Contemporary was a bucket list item. Like 2 years ago for my birthday, we got to stay there, and it was everything I wanted it to be. And it is a bucket list item for so many people. I want it to be bucket list item worthy. Whatever they do with the interior of the guest rooms, it needs to live up to the fact that it is literally next door to the Magic Kingdom.
Yep. That's, you know what? And I had it on my bucket list too. And because I've stayed at Bay Lake Tower as a Disney Vacation Club member, but I for years wanted to stay in that A-frame. There's something about getting off of that monorail and looping around to the elevator and taking it upstairs to your room. It just feels like, wow, this is so cool that this is home right now. I'm staying here. This is so cool. So, and Vanessa in chat, she said, you can't make everyone happy all the time. They're never going to be able to. And my motto for like the last 20 years has been that you're doing pretty good if you can make most of the people happy most of the time. So, and I think Disney does that.
Yep.
I think they do that. You can't please everyone, and it's tough. It's a tough thing.
And I don't want this part to drag on too long because we do have a lot to talk about, but I think the one thing that is getting thrown out more and more is the trend of using white in the room and then accent walls and very small touches here and there, because it's making a lot of the rooms look very similar just on spec. And that's where you start throwing out, how is this worth the same amount of money that this one is, when they are so close in look and feel, but just priced so differently. But this is just the trend that's been happening the past 6, 7, 8 years, that started with boutique hotels going for that sleek, modern, IKEA-ish look and design. And it started over at Universal, and I remember when Pete started ripping apart rooms back at Universal, saying, "Oh, this is hideous, and this is ugly, and I hate that." And then it has slowly just made its way into Walt Disney World as well too, because I think this is an example of Disney fans like over theming in the right moments, and they like it feeling different. They don't want it to feel just like a hotel that you can find anywhere else, but that's also a thing where if Disney is not necessarily concerned about their Uber fans and wants to please the masses per se, then yeah, it makes sense to go towards a design decision like that. And so I get where they're going with it. I like it in some circumstances. I like that clean look to it. But then in some circumstances, like we didn't talk about Wilderness Lodge when they redid the rooms over there, I think those are a better example of how to do it with just on the next level without being as modern as some of these other redesigns are. But I don't have pictures of that, so I don't want to get into a big debate on that. And we have to talk about our next news, and that is happy for Disney's Polynesian Village Resort fans, because they announced that they are now accepting reservations for the hotel for arrivals beginning July 19th. So no longer just DVC open at Disney's Polynesian Village Resort. You'll now have the regular rooms as well. And of course, the big part of that is that guests will come and they will get a chance to stay in the new Moana themed rooms, which of course just look incredible. But I feel like they got a little bit more love than the contemporary rooms did, but they weren't a huge hit with everyone. But I'm excited to get in those rooms one day as well to see them too. And of course, it's also going to have the resort as a whole is going to have the new entrance with the new porte cochere. I always forget how to say that, so I apologize if I just said it wrong. And that will showcase the iconic mid 20th century architecture that the Polynesian is famous for. But yeah, it's been a long time coming. It feels like a lot of the major construction at the Polynesian has been winding down for a while here, and with every wall that would come down, a new one would go up, and then it would just kind of flip flop. But we're getting so close to when it's actually going to be open. It's exciting.
It opens on my birthday. I'm like,
Oh, happy
Yay.
birthday.
I'm excited. I'm like, ooh, what a birthday present.
Just for you.
Yeah, all for me.
Love it.
I want to stay there on my birthday.
There you go.
Yeah,
That's
just
awesome.
find a way to work out to be like, hey, Pete, I need to stay here on my birthday. Make it happen,
Right?
right?
Yeah, yeah, let's do it. We got to check out the Moana rooms anyway, right?
Yep, we do.
Right. That's exactly right. Yeah, it's nice to actually have a date rather than, July. Now we know when. I got to hop over there the week before last, and just to take a peek at all the construction that's going on out front. And if you want to look at our Instagram posts to give, if you just want to look to see what the construction looks like, it is the front of the building and this monorail station are still very, very under construction. It was neat to see that they had put in the new bridge that extends from the Great Ceremonial House over to the monorail platform, but it's still in the middle of all the stuff. So right now, if you're coming and until the monorail station is complete, to get inside the Great Ceremonial House, you go to the right-hand side of the building. So between Rarotonga and the Great Ceremonial House, there's that door right there. You just hop right on in. No worries, because if you get turned around, they've got signage everywhere letting you know exactly where to go. It was neat being inside the lobby again when I stopped by, because they've moved the Ohana check-in desk back out. So it's now prominently displayed there on the second floor. So that seating area, looks like it's waiting area again. So just knowing that that's just on the cusp of happening, it's neat to see the changes coming to the Poly. And now that we've got just that opening date, the reopening date, it's exciting.
Yeah. The only thing we need left is to know when the reopening date will be for the monorail. Because once the monorail's finished, then of course you have monorail transportation from Disney's Polynesian Village Resort once again, instead of having to walk to the TTC or walk over to Grand Floridian and get on the monorail that way. Or, if you walk all the way to Grand Floridian, you might as well just walk the rest of the way after that.
Keep on walking.
Yeah, you're already most of the way there. Or, you still have boat transportation to Magic Kingdom for the time being. But yeah, we just don't have a date on when the monorail will actually be finished and the front entrance to walk inside, because obviously the monorail in Porte Cochere area, they're just stacked monorails right on top of that area, so they have to finish construction on that before we can go in the normal way. But hopefully we'll have an idea roughly of when that will be sooner than later. But I think we're going to move on to our next news story, and this is another one that has people scratching their heads and leaving us wondering what in the world is going on here, because it looks like that some of the sold-out dates for the Disney After Hours Boo Bash once again became available, and that would also lead to believe that they have increased capacity for the Halloween event that's going to be happening starting on, I don't even have the
August 10th.
August 10th, thank
yep.
you. Yes, August 10th through actually Halloween. And so there was a lot of dates sold out. And then the last time when Jackie updated our article on it, at that point, the only two sold out dates were August 10th and October 31st. And that kind of leaves you wondering, what in the world is going on with this event? Why are they selling more tickets? What's going to happen? What do y'all think about this?
I have a lot of thoughts about this. I I haven't written an article about my thoughts on it because I don't think that a lot of people probably agree with what I am about to say, but I think that so last year, well, earlier this year, we were at 30% capacity in the parks, right? So they were letting 30% of their regular 100% worth of people into the parks. So they have a capacity set for after hours events, I imagine. And a lot of people online have been comparing Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party because that's really the closest thing that we can compare another Halloween event to, except that we also had the regular after hours events. So those were very noticeably lighter crowds when you went to one of those after hours events. So anytime you ever saw video on it, it was always less crowded. You could tell. And so I feel like when Disney first announced this event, I feel like they were doing it instead of the 100% that they would normally do an after hours event, they were maybe doing it at 30% of what they would normally do. So those tickets were flying off the shelves. They added 5 new events, new dates into the mix because of dates selling out so quickly, which makes sense if they're only selling 30% instead of 100%. So that doesn't mean, in my way of thinking, that doesn't mean that it's going to be more crowded, that they've added more capacity, but they still have 40% more to play with before they even get, or no, right? 30%, no, 70, they still have 70% more. Sorry, it's not math time. They still have 70% more to play with before they get to 100% of their after hours capacity. So I don't know if I'm explaining how I'm thinking that, but it makes sense to me because they didn't sell out of 100% of their capacity, and without with Disney not disclosing their capacity numbers, it's really hard to like accuse them of anything really.
So, Jackie, this is where I disagree with you just because the park for a while and back when they announced this and such was at a 30% capacity, I don't think that means Disney would automatically say, okay, well, for this after hours event, then we're also going to do 30% of what that would normally be. So I'm just going to throw out numbers that I don't know have any accuracy to them, just as an example. If a normal day at Magic Kingdom can have up to 100% capacity, after hours, let's say that is a 10% capacity event. So 100,000 people could be in the park, but for after hours, only 10,000 people can be in the park. So because of limiting attendance, Disney says, okay, we'll make it 30% capacity. So now an average day in the park would have 30,000 people in it. But I think you're applying the logic, well, then for after hours, they would only do 30% of what would normally be there. That would only be 3,000 people. I don't think that's how it's working. I think that the original thought was, okay, we'll sell the same amount for after hours that we would normally sell at any point of the year, because if there's only at an after hours event, if there's only 10,000 tickets available and Disney is still currently at a 30% capacity or 50% capacity or whatever, 10,000 people is still always going to be less than 30 or 50 or 60 or 70 or all the way up there. So you can still sell the event as limited capacity and hard ticket and low capacity. It doesn't, and where I'm at with this now is, did Disney just say, okay, well, we can now change our idea about after hours beyond what happened before? Because after hours wasn't always a sellout event. I know some dates sold out, but it wasn't like the Disney after hours wasn't like the Halloween parties and Christmas parties. It was for a very specific audience, but now that all these people are throwing extra money at an event that costs more, that's going to raise a couple eyebrows and say, well, maybe we were wrong about the capacity that we had before with these parties. Maybe we should up them a little bit more. I think it's more likely that that happened. But You could be right too. Neither one of us work for Disney. We just sit here on the internet and talk about it like we're experts. So,
Right. Yep.
I'm kind of thinking that the truth lies somewhere in the middle of what both of you are saying. And again, I don't work for Disney, so I have no idea. But I'm just thinking, that with capacity, everything is so very in flux right now. We are just now living in the first weeks after, mask. For fully vaccinated guests, masks becoming optional and physical distancing, being relaxed within the parks, in the attraction queues, all that jazz. So I'm thinking, because here's the deal: people are going to be upset if they roll into the Boo Bash after hours event and it is dissimilar to the other after hours events. Like there enough people went to those after hours events in years past and experienced them, and the boutique quality event that it was. I mean, it was special. There was a reason why it had the price tag that it was, because the capacity was so low, because snacks and bottled drinks were included, all of that. So I'm hoping that with some of the pandemic restrictions being relaxed, that they are now going, okay, we can comfortably and safely add more, while still hopefully offering a boutique experience, something that's a little bit more exclusive. Now, if I roll in there on August 10th and it is wall-to-wall people, and there are going to be words that need to be said, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. Plenty of words.
There will be a strongly worded article. But hopefully that's not the case. I'm really hopeful. I know to go in with both eyes open and not to be wearing my rose-colored glasses. But I am still hopeful that with the after hours moniker attached to the event, that it will live up to the other after hours events that have gone before it.
yeah. Or they say, shut up, eat your Mickey bar, stop complaining, have your free popcorn, bring your big backpack and load it up with Coke, Diet Coke, and water. Just stop complaining.
Just stop whining.
I wasn't as I wasn't as pumped about Boo Bash as like in the past week as I was when it was first announced. Like, okay, this feels like a good step. And now that we are in the week that fireworks are coming back to Magic Kingdom and Epcot, now it's a lot harder to be as invigorated for Boo Bash as I previously was. But we're still going, and we'll have to see. But right now, just on paper and the games that I make up in my head, I'm really hoping that Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party returns instead of Disney After Hours.
Fanta Bash.
Fanta Bash. What would it be? Santa Bash. I said Fanta Bash. I don't. Were they going to give you out free Fanta? Fanta orange? Fanta pineapple?
Fanta strawberry.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Someone here in the chat just Mickey's Snowball After Hours. I like the Snowball Bash.
Oh,
that would
cute.
be fun. Yeah. Yeah.
If they could make the weather that goes with that as well, that would be much appreciated.
Yes, it would, because we're gonna love that first night of Boo Bash when it's 95 degrees and pours down raining on us. It's gonna be pretty spectacular. Always.
Oh my gosh!
Always enjoy it.
9,000 degrees hotter than fire.
Yes. But we're gonna talk about something else other than Boo Bash now. We're not gonna talk about my dog licking itself behind me on the sofa as well too. So if you're listening to this and not watching, you'll have to head over to YouTube if you want to see that. But here's the big news of the day, and well, as of yesterday, but also today, and that's Disney Cruise Line delays their test cruise aboard the Disney Dream. There was rumors floating about this. We had heard from one source that, that was supposed to go on the Disney Dream on Tuesday, today, that it was being canceled. And then the Orlando Sentinel was actually able to confirm it. And then Disney Cruise Line did issue the following statement saying, "We are delaying our simulation cruise due to a small number of inconsistent COVID-19 test results, which are considered positive by the CDC. The rigorous health and safety protocols we have in place helped us identify the situation, though the test results were ultimately negative." And this was supposed to be a 2-day test out of Port Canaveral, Florida, that would have returned on July 1st. And yes, the Disney Dream is now in the red color coding system, as well as, what's the other ship that's currently in the red for Disney?
It's the Fantasy.
Okay. And
no, not the Fantasy. I apologize. The Wonder.
The Wonder. Then the Fantasy's
Wonder.
in green. But
Fantasy
ultimately, with the ship color chart, I'm going to let someone else explain that because I've now been talking too long. But ultimately, the whole color coding status isn't necessarily a complete deal breaker with it, because Celebrity just had their test cruise that went out, and that ship, from what Jackie and Denny were telling me, was also under a red. So that's red is not the terrible color that it could be, but in the terms of green, yellow, orange, or red, green being the best and red being the worst, it's still not great. But do you someone want to explain that a little bit more in depth, just to have it?
Go, Jackie.
Yeah. So I will do my best to kind of interpret this. So the CDC has a chart, and on the chart, it's one of those flow charts where the top has anyone on the cruise ship tested positive for COVID-19 in the past 14 days. If it's yes, it goes this way. If it's no, it goes this way. Well, the no side eventually flows down to green, yellow, and orange, where if it's yes, the only places for it to go are red or orange. And so if it's yes, then it continues on to ask you if the crew members, because there's only crew members allowed on the ship at this time. So it goes on to talk about if the crew members have tested positive for COVID-19 on the day of boarding or during their initial 14-day quarantine. Now, if any of you guys that are listening to the show right now, if you guys follow any of the crew that are very public on Instagram and whatnot, social media, you maybe have been following along with what's going on. But anytime any of the cruise members get on to the ship, the crew members, they have to quarantine for 14 days. And so, anyways, Disney didn't release all of the details, of course, in their statement. They basically, just said that the tests were ultimately negative, but it's hard to know. But so I don't have, there's you guys might remember the framework for conditional sailing order that was written a few months back. It's 40 pages long. And it sort of goes into if this, then that. And it's a lot of information. And so the fact that Disney is kind of taking the longest with this, I think that they are being more precautionary than the other cruise lines, yes. Really. Mm-hmm. I'm honestly really surprised that they canceled this test cruise, especially if those tests were ultimately negative. That surprises me a lot. I don't know. I just, I'm not sure what the exact deal is with the ships being able to go out, even if they're coded in the red category, though. So that piece of it is still a little bit confusing to me, and I don't want to say the wrong thing. So that part of it, I still don't understand all the way.
You don't have to say more than what you feel comfortable with. That's part of our mistakes, is when we start talking and we don't stop talking, and then we start to go into information that's completely wrong. And just embarrasses ourselves. So let's pump the brakes if we
Not
don't
that
know
ever
for
happens.
sure. Yeah, but
I've done that.
I do want to share. I was talking to Elaine Edwards, one of our Dreams Unlimited travel agents, that I'm sure y'all know from watching the shows and all the other shows that we do. And maybe you're one Elaine's your agent out there, or she's your client. Yeah, that maybe it's one of those. But I was asking her to be on the show. She couldn't do it because she's currently at Walt Disney World. But she still sent a snippet over of her breakdown of the situation. And she said the biggest thing to know is that a common misconception is just because the Dream is marked as red doesn't mean that it can't sail. The Celebrity Edge is sailing right now with passengers in the red. Under the new guidance, they just removed the crew member that tested positive and moved forward. It's going to happen. People are going to test positive even on fully vaccinated sailings. There is no way around it. DCL needs to put on their big girl panties and get moving. The statement that they released yesterday was... I'm going to leave that last part out because that's not appropriate for here, and I don't think she would want me to say that. But she did say hashtag Team September, and that is a remark of one of the last shows we did on the DCL fan channel, which we will have actual DCL content coming on there once it's sailing and we can keep up with the content. We can't just always speculate about it over and over again. That's why it's still mostly on this show and not over on DCL Fan. But over on DCL Fan, Pete, like he has many times asked when we think it's going to DCL is going to start sailing again, and he was locked in on August, I believe, as well as one other person was, and Elaine leaned towards September, and I jumped on her bandwagon too. I don't know if September's even feasible now at this point, but it feels better than August to me.
Yeah, I think it's more feasible than August too.
Mhm.
I mean, and there's a lot of stuff going on with sailings out of Florida. There's a lot of hullabaloo happening right now. And between the laws that were put into effect that go into effect in just a couple days on July 1st. So, as you guys probably know, that the cruises are not allowed. Any business that operates out of Florida is not allowed to ask anyone to show proof of vaccination. So, Carnival Cruise Line and Royal Caribbean Cruise Line have both issued extensive statements and information about how unvaccinated people are going to incur costs of COVID testing on their ships. They're going to have to be tested. They're going to have to pay for that themselves. And they're also going to have to, there's going to be certain parts of the ship that they can't go into. There's going to be certain activities that they can't participate in if they choose not to show their proof of vaccination. So the cruise line isn't saying you have to show us that you're vaccinated, but they're saying if you choose not to show us your proof of vaccination, this is what we're doing. And so I've really been wondering how Disney Cruise Line is going to handle all of that. And I think that it's going to take them a while. I think they're probably absorbing what the other cruise lines are doing and kind of thinking about what they're going to do themselves. So anyway, yeah, I think September is so much more realistic. This stuff takes time and they have to get it right. They have to get it right the first time. They can't, so
Yep.
It's really critical.
And I think it was pointed out in some of the coverage of it, is, just conjecturing about DCL's decision to go ahead and postpone the cruise is the thought that there'll be exorbitantly more kids on a DCL ship than on, say, a Carnival or a Royal Caribbean ship. And so they're just, maybe I think they're just trying to figure it all out, but I'm with you guys and Elaine with Team September. I think they're going to have to really flesh this out a little bit, and this is a setback, yes, but I think it's out of an abundance of caution. But it's going to take them a little bit.
I think I'm going to invest in a pontoon boat and just start driving people around in a pontoon boat and letting them sleep overnight on it. And, they'll wake up and I'll have decorations and I'll be like, "Hey, you're at Castaway Craig's and enjoy. There's snorkeling in a Florida lake. There's you can't really see down in there, but you can still snorkel in it. Be careful of amoebas. There's I'll find a water slide or a rope swing, and you can just swing off into the lake again. Once again, be careful about amoebas.
And gators.
Listen to Pete. And gators.
And all sorts of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know
snakes.
what? I'm gonna make my own cruise line, my Craig's Pontoon Cruise Line, PCL.
There you go.
Wait. Yeah, CPCL. There we go.
Could be onto something there.
Yeah.
Sounds fabulous.
Yeah, and no one will want to go on that, but that's okay. I wouldn't want to go on it either. I wouldn't even want to drive it. I'll find someone else to drive it. That'll work out for that. But
you'll still need a captain's hat because you need to welcome everybody on board.
I'll show up for that, and I'll show up at the welcome reception when there's bubbly and such. I'm not gonna be completely off limits. I'm gonna make sure that I only show up magically when we get back to ports of call.
Perfect.
So it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. Yeah. So
why do I have the Love Boat in my head now? Are you Captain Stubing, Craig?
It's gonna be nothing like the Love Boat. Trust me. It's gonna be far worse than that. It will also. If you thought 70s cruising was maybe not the most elegant thing, looking at it from our time period now with what cruise ships are like, this is going to look more like, I'll say 40s, right in that time period. So it's going to be bad. And expect not just the 40s, 30s, 10s. It's going to also be like the lowest part of the ship. So the penny for a ticket, that kind of scenario. It's not going to be great. Okay.
Sounds like we may need to make sure our tetanus shots are up to date before we go on that.
Yeah, well, that's always a good reminder to stay up to date with your tetanus shot. Just you know what things can happen. But this isn't an episode of Off the Rails. We can't let this go off the rails here. That's every Thursday. We have to do that. But we're gonna do a rapid fire end here with some of the other smaller news stories that kind of got lost in the shuffle last week. And at least one was a big one that we should have talked about. And we talked slightly about it on our Patreon after show last week, but Pete seemed a little bit disinterested in it. So it didn't even really take off there. But I want to talk about just a couple of things as we're going along here. And that's the exciting news that Salt and Straw is coming to Disney Springs. How awesome is that? Who's excited?
Yay! I'm excited.
Yeah, I am too. I've never had Salt and Straw before, but sounds fascinating to me.
It's just
me neither.
Denny, you didn't get it when you were in Disneyland?
I did not. Wow. I don't think it was. I think it opened right after. We were there for Pixar Fest in 2018, and there was a reason, and I don't remember what the reason was. I'm afraid of the bug ice cream. That one I'm not doing. But if we get bugs here.
Yeah, that one, I mean, that was like Halloween time. And honestly, I don't. It's not bad. The whole I just don't care about the whole bug in dessert thing. Like that's never really been an appeal to me. Like I know kids liked when you could get the lollipops at some places that would have the bugs in them. I never got it. I'm not opposed to it. It just didn't make sense to me. But I love Salt and Straw just for the freshness of their ice cream. I like homemade ice cream. There's nothing worse than going to an ice cream shop and you're like, oh, I cannot wait for this. It's the right temperature that I want this delicious ice cream. And then you get there and you see them pull off the lids and you find out that it was, mass produced ice cream made by Hershey's or any of the big brands, Breyers, Eddie's, however you say it, Dryers, all of them. And it's like, oh, that was my problem on one of the Off the Rails episodes about ice cream at the Magic Kingdom on Main Street, USA. It's mass produced. It's not that small batch, interesting flavors like Salt and Straw has. And I know there's still people who would say no, Ample Hills was better, but I'm not looking at it as which is better or worse. It's just is it better to have one of the two of those or nothing at all? And I'd rather have one
Right.
of the two.
Right. And there are people in live chat who are asking what salt and straw is. So it's small batch artisan ice cream, right, Craig?
Yes, it was based out of Oregon, if I am remembering correctly. I know it had to either be Oregon or Washington, but I'm like 95% positive it was Oregon.
Yeah,
And
Portland.
Portland. Thank you, Jackie. Of course it'd be Portland. It's always Portland.
It's
But
always Portland.
yeah,
Yeah.
it is. It's why not? And then it slowly started to expand and made it into California, into downtown Disney at Disneyland Resort. And then it did do a big jump out east here to Florida, actually, to Miami. And there's two locations in the greater Miami area, but not in Orlando. And now they are moving up to Orlando. And the good news about that, I mean, it's not opening until 2022, so we have time to still wait for it. But when I found out that it was here, because I completely missed the news, the first thing I did was message Rhino, and I'm like, we should just drive to Miami for it. Like, we have to, because they use like the one donut, since this is the donut information station.
It is.
They did a collaboration with the Salty Donut that you've heard us talk about on this show and other shows, too many shows actually. And so I like that they take local flavors and they take local businesses and do collaborations with them. So we're going to also have that in our Orlando location. It's going to have tributes to some of the flavors that you would find in Florida. So it makes it unique. Even if you've had it out on the West Coast, you'll still have some of the favorites from there, but then we'll have unique items to Florida that I'm all about. Florida has a lot of amazing food and has a lot of amazing flavors, and to then show them off through ice cream, sign me up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I always judge ice cream companies by their plain old coffee ice cream. I'm so boring when it comes to ice cream. I'm kind of nervous about all those crazy flavors, but I don't know.
That's that. Let's listen. It's fine. I do the same thing with, if I see an ice cream spot that has like normal flavors, I always look. Usually, my two that I look for is I need something that's like mint based, whether it's a mint chocolate chip or just plain mint or mint cookies and cream. I'm always going to look for something on that level. Or then my next one is, if you have banana ice cream, how good's your banana ice cream? Does it taste like real bananas or does it taste artificial? Like, is it more
Ugh.
like that popsicle flavor? So it's good. It's good to have a base of, I know I like this. Now see if you can blow my socks off.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
For sure. It'll be interesting as far as pricing is concerned. Ample Hills got pricey. Like,
Yeah.
rolling into Ample Hills, that was not a $6.59 sundae. It was more than that. Now, granted, you could also say that the experience was worth it. Those were more unique flavors. But it'll be interesting to see how much, at what price point everything is placed here. And I think the general consensus is that it's likely going into the space that used to be Something Silver. That's right next door to the AMC theaters. Ample Hills, that was supposed to be their second location before they filed Chapter 11. So I'm just going to be keeping a really close eye on that space, and I'm very excited that they're coming.
Yeah. I think it's going to be cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was trying to look up the pricing real quick. I want to say,
Okay.
if I remember, I couldn't find it though. No one has, including us, has a updated picture of the menu. And so I'm looking at an old one, just the first one that I found. And it looks like a single scoop was $6, double was $8, kids was $5, pints cost $12. And then you can, of course, get bonuses like, you can go up from there. So, but that was from a couple of years ago when Salt and Straw first opened. They might have raised to 7 or 8 is the base and went up from there. There's a chance, but it's expensive. But
Very
it's handcrafted in small batches. So it makes it a little bit
Artisanal.
artisanal. Yeah, all the words that Kevin Close hates.
All of those
Yeah,
and more.
that's a background joke. He got real mad one day on an episode when we said like, oh, they're handcrafted, and it's like everything's handcrafted, or it's made by a machine that was crafted by someone. I was like, okay, you're not, okay, you're not wrong, but
Fair.
fair enough. Another exciting news story that just kind of got swept under the rugs with us was that a favorite Fort Wilderness activity returned with modifications, and that is the movie at Fort Wilderness that happens every night. But unfortunately, and the fire that you can,
The
of
campfire.
course, yes, roast s'mores on. They're just not having Chip and Dale show up in the cowboy sing-along, but you have the movie still, and you do have s'more making, and that's awesome news.
Yeah, it is. It is. We got to stay, my husband and I got to stay at the cabins at Fort Wilderness for my birthday just last weekend. Last weekend, yeah. Weekend before last. And that was our first time ever staying at Fort Wilderness. And of course, I've always heard about this campfire that happens, and I knew it wasn't happening because of COVID protocols. So, but we asked just in case, because making s'mores is one of my very, very favorite things to do. And we asked, and actually they had just brought the campfire back the night before for the first time. And so we had dinner reservations. We went over to the Wave for dinner that night, came back, and we're like, okay, let's go to the campfire. And we head over, and everything at Fort Wilderness, it's wonderful, but it's an undertaking. Like, nothing is easy. It is if you've got a golf cart, but you've had to pay an extra $70 to do so. So we didn't rent the golf cart, so we had to wait for the bus, and you get on the bus and you go to where the Meadow Trading Post is, and the campfire's behind it. And we're walking up, and the clouds are rolling in, and a storm is coming, and we are told by guests walking in the opposite direction that it's been canceled due to lightning in the area. And we just went, oh, like, I just wanted a s'more. But it's all good. It was neat getting to talk to one of the cast members there and just find out a little bit of the background. Like, it's going to happen. It happens periodically up until Thursday, starting Thursday. It'll be a nightly event from 7 to 8. Bring your own s'more supplies with you. They're not going to have them there right now because that special food truck is not parked there at this time. So, and no, like you said, Craig, no cowboy sing-along, but at least you got a movie and you got a campfire, unless there's weather in the area, in which case you might not have either.
That's tough. That's tough.
Yeah. It is. But it's Florida in the summer, so what do you expect?
Yeah, that's what happens.
Yeah.
I just wish you can go back soon, Denny. Maybe with Andy, so that way I can quote Toy Story 2 at you. And don't worry, in just a few hours, you'll be sitting around a campfire with Andy making delicious hot schmoes.
Schmoes. I would love that. I'd love to make schmoes with Andy anytime.
Yeah. It works out in your situation that I could actually say that.
Yeah, sure enough.
But very, very exciting. If you're staying at Fort Wilderness, look out for that. It was, now nightly after July 1st. So that's great news. And one day, the chipmunks will be back. One day.
Yep.
You can hug a chipmunk.
You will. But our last thing we're going to cover just real quick here that is also exciting and just good to know. It's been, again, news that's been around for a little bit now, so you probably already heard it, but want to reiterate it for people coming to Walt Disney World that single rider lines have started to begin reopening at Walt Disney World. And that is huge news for people who like to split up their families because they just don't really care about them and take advantage of potentially shorter waits for it. And as a person who's usually going to theme parks by themselves, I'm very happy about this. I always like the opportunity to make new friends, whether or not they want me there. And I will be making new friends in the future real soon.
Fantastic.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's neat that they're coming back because yes, they absolutely work for those who love those lines. And it's part of the relaxation of some of the protocols that were put in place regarding physical distancing. And so now, you can be seated next to a perfect stranger in an attraction. And like you said, Craig, get to make a new friend. So I think anything that gets us closer to what it was before, this past year and a few months is a good thing in my book.
I agree. So that you can, if you like single rider lines and you want to use them, I believe right now you can find them at Smuggler's Run, Rock and Roller Coaster, and Test Track. So keep that in mind for your next vacation. But that's it with all of the news that we have for this week's show. Do you have any housekeeping right here before we wrap up that you want to mention, Denny or Jackie or Jenny?
Or Jenny. I have
yes.
I have two quick things. Of course, the perpetual one that we have is Magic Candle Company. If you are missing the magic and you just want your house to smell like a little bit of magic, head to magiccandlecompany.com. They are now doing free shipping for domestic orders over $25. And you can save 15% by using discount code DisneyInfo at checkout. And he's got a lot of really neat scents going on. He, meaning Keith, the grand poobah of all things Magic Candle Company, has a lot of really great scents going on. So definitely check that out. And second, we put up just a quick little article. If you are a cast member watching or listening, number one, thank you for the magic that you make. We appreciate you. Number two, you have a big discount to be able to take advantage of at Everglazed Donuts and Cold Brew because, again, this is the donut information station, and we need to impart this wisdom to you. Just the heads up that there's a huge discount. You can save 50% during the last 30 minutes of operating hours if you are a cast member and you swing by Everglazed Donuts next to Splitsville and Disney Springs. You can check out all of the information, all the details on the article that's on the DIS, wdwinfo.com.
Okay, Jackie?
Cool. I don't have anything that I can think of.
Okay, well, you don't have to have anything. In the live chat here as it was going on, Michael wanted me to remind people too, not just single rider lines have begun reopening. Pre-shows are also back for the most part at Walt Disney World. From Runaway Railway has their pre-show back with the awesome effect that very little people got to see because it was only open for so long. Haunted Mansion, Rock and Roller Coaster, Tower of Terror, for people who think that pre-shows are part of the attraction and where the attraction usually begins because that sets up the story. You're definitely going to be happy about this, and feels like a lot of those magical moments have returned to Walt Disney World.
It's exciting.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
I had the chance to ride Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. Well, of course, with Denny when it first opened, and that was the best fun ever.
It was.
And
best day.
It was, oh my gosh, it was so fun. And then I rode it a couple of months ago, and it was so very different without that pre-show.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I was like,
yes.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
So I'm just so happy for all of you out there who get to experience that attraction with the pre-show, because it's really, I mean, I think it makes a huge difference just overall for the whole attraction. So
I completely agree with that 1,000%. So it's very exciting. More steps back towards normal. And stay tuned for later in the week for our coverage of the return of fireworks at Walt Disney World. I know there's going to be a lot of us at Magic Kingdom on Thursday night for Happily Ever After. So look for all the different videos we do for that on our channels. I think most of them are going to be at youtube.com/TDWInfo. WDW Info, our Diz channel. I know Fiasco is going to do a vlog with it. I'm going to be, of course, doing my best to get a good shot of the fireworks, and then I'll try to head to Epcot to get Epcot Forever done again as quickly as possible, hopefully the very next night. I wish I could be in two places at once, but again, I still haven't figured out how to clone myself. But yeah, we have a lot of fun coverage that's going to be coming up for the rest of the week. So just keep an eye out on all of our channels. And that's a good reminder that we did split up our channels and how we're doing things a long time ago. But I still want to mention it because every time we mention it, we get that response of, I didn't realize you did this. I was just wondering where everything went. So if you've been missing the Universal Edition podcast and you wanted to watch it every single week, it's back. It's weekly. We have something brand new, and you can find that at youtube.com/UOFan. And you can find that also in all the links we have, like on the homepage of youtube.com/DizUnplugged, and in the description every week we have the links to all the different shows. You can find that. Of course, our dining reviews are on the Disney Dining channel, youtube.com/Disney Dining. We have the Diz channel, WDW Info. We have DVC Fan. We have DCL Fan. We have C Disney, if that's your cup of tea. The Dreams Unlimited Travel channel. We have them all. So just keep that in mind. If you've been missing your favorite content, wondering where did it go, it might be on that. And for all you listeners out there, your podcasts, they're all in the same normal place. Just make sure you're subscribed so that way you find them. On your way out here, please, please, please give me a thumbs up on this video if you enjoyed it. And again, check to make sure you're subscribed. And also, after the fact here, make sure you're leaving those comments and questions and video suggestions for us. And for the audio people, I already told you to subscribe, but make sure that you are leaving those 5-star ratings and reviews on Apple Podcasts if that's where you listen. And for all our Patreon supporters, make sure you stay tuned. We'll probably take a couple-minute break and then start up our Patreon after show that we do every week for you. And that's where the cursing starts and the party gets real. So stay tuned for that in just a little bit. But before I go, I want to say thank you so much to Jackie and Denny for helping me get this off the ground today. This has not been an easy show to accomplish, with Pete not being able to do this morning because he ended up coming down with a sickness, and the other people who are sick or out of town or just unavailable for this. I think it ended up okay at the very least.
If we hit okay, we did our job. We're good.
Yeah, I think at
Good
least
job,
okay.
Craig.
No, thank you all so much, and thank you so much to everyone out there for listening and watching. I truly hope that you enjoyed it because I did, and so I hope you did too. But we'll be back with you next week for another episode of the Diz Unplugged. Take care. Bye bye.